Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott, and this is dedicated to all those spirits out there who believe life is meant to be magical and fun. Here we venture to share the very mysteries of self and reality. My purpose is to help light that spark inside of you, to reawaken your sense of fascination and awe towards the world. I'm going to try to help you hack reality and unleash your potential and open unlimited possibilities of wealth, health, and relationships in your life. Welcome. Today's episode, I wanted to talk about the idea of coordination in reality transurfing. And if this is the first time you've ever heard of reality transurfing, then just to give you a quick background, reality transurfing was created by Vadim Zeland, a wonderful writer. It is a 900-page book that details a way of creating reality by your actions and by your visualizations and through a number of techniques and ideas. And it's very similar to the law of attraction, if you've heard about that. It's kind of an advanced form of the law of attraction that takes into account a number of things. But one of the things that is talked about in reality transurfing is coordination. So I am a little confused, and I've read this book many times, and clearly it's important. And so I wanted to deep dive into what coordination means. I've seen it mentioned on other transurfing videos. And so I kind of thought, is there something to coordination that's different or special? So if you want to get a little background on what reality transurfing is, I recommend that you listen to my episode or watch my episode on reality transurfing. And I have an episode on importance, on pendulums, on the mirror reality, and I have several meditations that are based around teachings from reality transurfing. But I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly evolving in my understanding. That's the wonderful thing about this book. If you open it up, you'll find new content all the time, even if you've read it. It's very powerful in that way. And I think as time goes along, people are realizing that this is pretty powerful stuff. But coordination seems to be an important aspect in reality transurfing. The word coordination is used 60 times in the book. And so, according to the book, you do not need confidence or faith. And there are two different kinds of coordination that I can kind of break down. There's coordination of importance and coordination of intention. And I think a lot of times they're talking about coordination of importance or intention. I really wonder if the word coordination, the way it's used in particular, is some kind of Russian translation error. And that's something that I wonder about with a lot of the reality transurfing book, because it is translated from Russian. The writer, Vadim Zeland, a former physicist, is Russian and has several books that have not even been translated. But when I looked it up, coordination or koordinatsiya in Russian can mean timing, agreement, negotiation, reconciliation, adjustment. And so I don't know if that definitely is exactly what we're talking about when we talk about coordination in reality transurfing. But clearly the topic of coordination is important. So I have some quotes and I want to go over some of this stuff. According to Zeland, he says, when referring to coordination, you do not need confidence or faith. You need coordination. Okay? So then he goes on to say that coordination means taking pleasure and thinking about the goal as if it had been already reached, letting go of the grip of control over the script and going with the alternatives flow, helping it along with the oar of pure intention. So the idea of not creating importance for what it is that you want, by not gripping tightly on it, what it is, by not being a control freak, and kind of letting go and letting the flow of the situation is my best interpretation of that. And intention is a very, very important part of reality transurfing. And he's saying pure intention. This is totally different to blind faith. So it's not like we know everything's going to be okay, blind faith as it's referred to in the Bible. Where there is faith, particularly blind faith, according to Zeland, there is always room for doubt. It is the forced potential of importance that blinds. When you go with the flow in conscious awareness, everything falls into place without excessive effort. So far, what I would take coordination of intention to mean is that it's going with the flow. In reality transurfing means not letting the script take you along, creating an intention for what it is that you want, and then moving along with the script and letting it flow. When you act in accordance with coordination, according to Zeland, what you previously wanted to believe in, but could not because it's frightened you with the unknown, will soon appear from around a bend in the current. Doubts will disappear when the mind is confronted with fact. Then faith is transformed into knowledge, and fear of the unknown becomes satisfaction at the feeling of your own strength. The most important thing is to reduce importance and let go of controlling the script. So this is the second time that he's talked about control over the script. So coordination is talking about coordinating your intention and letting go of control of the script. As has been stated in many of the other books by Vadim Zeland, there are scripts that are available, very much like we can wake up in a film archive that is our lives, and we can choose a script for our life. Now, once we move into the script, let the script go. We don't have control over the script. The script is already written from now all the way to the end of the future, and there's multiple different realities, and each reality has its own script. It's like you're walking into a play and you take over into the role. It's discussed often. It's something that he completely talks about over and over again repetitively in the idea of the script, and that's what he's talking about. But he emphasizes when using the word coordination to let go of control of the script. It is also important to remember that you decide the level of complexity a challenge represents, and that adjustments to the script will play in your favor if you let them. Finally, according to Zeland, absolute coordination is achieved as a result of harmony between the heart and mind. One of the most important aspects of transurfing is if you have an intention or desire or something that you want, but you want it with your heart but not your mind, it won't work. Or if you want something with your mind but your heart is not there, it won't work either. And so a harmony occurs, and that may be what is allowing you to let go of controlling the script. When your heart and mind are together, there's a harmony that occurs. If on a conscious level you are certain of what you want, but there is doubt or a glimpse of depression sits in your subconscious, coordination remains an elusive quality. So still, when I read that doesn't sound right for normal English. And so anybody out there that knows Russian, if there is an alternate meaning for coordination, I want to know. And I would love to hear in your comments what you think Zeland is talking about when he repeatedly refers to coordination. He says harmony of the heart and mind is achieved by listening to the whisperings of the heart and living true to your own credo. A lot has been said about how and why to listen to the voice of the heart. All I would add here is that living according to your own credo means loving yourself, accepting yourself the way you are, and not suffering from pangs of conscience or guilt, and firmly acting according to the dictates of the heart and mind. Efforts to live true to your own personal credo fall apart when self-esteem suffers and conflict arises between the heart and mind. So it is, as you know, a wonderful thing to be able to live according to your true values and beliefs. It is even more wonderful to know that you do not have to create your credo, change it, or battle with it, although many people do, chipping away at their own credo as if it were literally a statue in marble. Activating your credo will not bring you anything but fruitless soul-searching, spiritual torment, and self-doubt. So I think in that sentence, he probably means going against your credo. But your personal credo cannot be shaped or drummed up as a result of struggle or other will for effort. You already have a credo. It is just that. Like the heart, it gets sealed up in the box of importance. So, this idea of the credo is interesting, and I would also like to know if there's a Russian translation. So, does he mean your purpose? What does credo mean when Zeland's talking about this? Your personal credo cannot be shaped or drummed up as a result of struggle or other willful effort. So you can't try to find your credo much like your purpose. So as soon as you let go of outer and inner importance, you will immediately sense that your credo has been freed, according to Zeland. When importance is at zero, you have nothing to protect or conquer. You simply live in accordance with it and calmly take what is yours. By abandoning the battle for self-worth, not inviting others to judge your worth, and reducing outer importance, you finally acquire what is normally considered to be true confidence. So, not battling the script, not battling for credo, and abandoning your battle for self-worth, not inviting others to judge your worth, and reducing outer importance, making that yourself more humble, I guess, then you acquire true confidence. Being true to yourself is really, I think, what he's saying there. The type of confidence is not the frail confidence built on excess potential, but a calm inner strength coordination. True calm coordination does not relate to anything external, and so it requires neither confirmation nor proof. No doubt you have seen characters in films whose confidence is beyond question. True calm self-confidence can only come from inner self-sufficiency and the integrity of wholeness. You do not compare yourself to anyone. You are simply in a state of total balance. So as I'm reading this kind of balance, as I understand, is achieved when there is a unity of heart and mind, when there is no feeling of guilt, dependency, superiority, obligation, fear, or stress. In other words, when you do not disturb the balance inside yourself or in the world around you. Live in harmony with the outside world, yourself, and your credo. This is the ideal we should strive towards in order to have complete confidence. That, according to Zeland, is coordination. So do you understand what I'm trying to say? This passage is repeatedly talked about, but there's a little bit of gray area. Coordination, according to Zeland, grants you freedom from pendulums, allowing you to move independently in whatever direction you wish to claim, whatever you desire. So it's the coordination of the heart and mind. It's the coordination of your mind over the script. If at the present time you have to fulfill tiresome obligation, detach yourself and imagine that you're being filmed for a movie. He says, hang on, for you will have to play your role all the way to the end, at least until the end of the current series, until you walk through the right door. He recommends visualizing your target slide without thinking about the means and waiting for our intention to open the door for you. So the question is, what do you have to do to maintain coordination and walk upon even ground without plunging into holes in the ground or clambering over obstacles? That's the question that Zeland asks. And he prescribes reducing importance and going with the flow. And this is not easy, but it is not impossible to free yourself from importance completely. And the anxious mind that daydreams and wants to control everything prevents you from going with the flow. Nonetheless, there is a solution, simple and yet ingenious, according to Zeland. You can make use of the mind's inclination to control everything and offer it a new game. So he's saying, use this aspect of the mind that wants to control everything and give it something to control. The idea of the game is make it a game. The idea of the game is every time something bad happens, the mind has to wake up, consciously evaluate the level of importance being attributed, and then change its relationship to the problem. Something that Zeland loves to talk about is waking up in both Tufti and in reality transurfing. And in this particular, he's saying to wake up, consciously evaluate the level of importance being attributed, and then change its relationship to the problem. Your mind is sure to like it. We've already looked at the principles of the game. They are the same as the humorous battle with the golem, but that is not all. These are all passages I'm reading to you from reality transurfing, and I'm trying to work this through in my mind with you so that we both can understand. So according to Zeland, here we come to the main principle of coordination. So very much like the mirror, he has principles to coordination. And I again ask, what is he meaning? Coordination between the heart and mind is the best thing I can understand, but he's not clarifying that because he's also talking about importance, and he's talking about using it to overcome pendulums and the credo. So the main principle of coordination, according to Zeland, is if you allow yourself to be guided by this principle, you'll achieve the same level of success in realizing the positive as negativists do in realizing their worst expectation. And the example is given, if you choose to perceive seemingly negative changes in the script as positive, that is what their outcome will be. If not absurd, it still sounds a little unconvincing, does it not? What could possibly be positive about an obvious setback, and what good is there to be found in misfortune? And yet, however strange it might sound, the principle works every time. And this is mentioned in Tufti, the idea to what is the advantage to the situation. This is not a complicated concept. I don't know if it's necessarily coordination, but it is very important, and I'm finding that I'm applying much more often. The idea is that when you have stuff that happens, you immediately say, there's an advantage to this, there's a reason for this will work out in my favor. And so just the other day, I had recorded some videos, and we went back and looked at the mic, and it sounded terrible. And, I could have just freaked out, but I said, obviously there's an advantage to this. When I went back and recorded them again, they just transformed into something way, way better. And so more and more when I have stuff come up, I'm finding myself just saying, what's the advantage to this? And then everything works out in my favor. And that is where I'm getting that. And it's been very good. Once again, Zeland assures that he's not asking you to believe in the principle that he's describing, simply experiment with it. He is saying you do not have to believe that there's an advantage to whatever the situation is. Just experiment with the idea of taking it as an advantage. He says to try it out in practice, and that there's a logical explanation for the mind. As you know, the world is constructed on the principle of dualism. Everything has an opposite manifestation: light and dark, black and white, positive and negative, full and empty. And when you walk across a log and fall to one side, you automatically lift your arm on the opposite side of your body to compensate for the movement. And something that he always does is gives good examples, as in nature and whatever it is, especially with importance, that there's a balancing effect. There's one side to the other. Likewise, every event on a lifeline, Zeland says, has two branches of potential realization, one favorable and one unfavorable. So everything that you do, there's something positive and negative. Every time you come up against one event or another, make a choice about what your relationship to that event will be. So if you choose to perceive the event as something positive, you position yourself on a favorable branch of the lifeline. So what he's saying is, when you have bad things happen, that reaction that you have in the moment is critical. And so in that moment, simply choose, what's the advantage for me? How is this favorable to me? A predisposition for negativity, however, will cause a person to express their discontent and choose an unfavorable branch on the lifeline. From first thing in the morning, people get irritated by the slightest thing, and the next thing until their whole day has turned into a constant trail of trouble. I am fascinated by this, and I am asking you, if you're listening, to tell me your stories about this. because once I've become aware of it, it's truly incredible. Wake up in the morning, you stub your toe, and the next thing you know, the door hinge breaks off, the refrigerator is broken, the alternator is broken in the car. It seems to happen in a series of events. And every day I notice whatever actions happen at the beginning, it seems to accumulate like a snowball. Have you ever noticed that reality is like a snowball? That it's like a little tiny thing that becomes something bigger, and oftentimes they're unrelated. So one of the great things that transurfing really brings out is this idea of a movement of different cause and effect that occurs, and that you can actually use this idea to create something even bigger, and that you can use this to create a positive lifeline, because a pattern forms. Usually you're not just picking to be positive or choose favorability over one thing, because it ends up being multiple things. He says, even when the small things, as soon as you lose your inner balance, the negative scenario evolves into a drama. As soon as the one that brings you down to the next thing follows. And this is why we say that things always happen in threes. The trail of trouble does not follow on from the initial irritation so much as from your attitude towards it. And the reason that we get into these strings of bad luck or bad things happening is not because the thing happened. It's because of your reaction to it. So how the pattern is formed depends on the choice you make. When you're standing at the fork in the road, and based on what Zeland is saying, you're always at the fork in the road. It might only be a minor irritation that is shaking you out of sorts, but irrespective of the magnitude of the irritation, you are already radiating energy at the frequency of the unfavorable branch in your lifeline. So it's very easy to fall into that negative lifeline. Moreover, a negative attitude creates a tension potential which drains your intention energy. Your actions become ineffective, and you stumble upon the next bigger irritation. You can imagine where you will end up in life if you keep following the map of negative branches. Essentially, this is what facilitates the generation shift. Now imagine a different scenario. Something happens that irritates you. So take a moment before rushing in with the negative attitude and responding in the primitive manner of the as Zeland calls the oyster. Say to yourself, stop. It's just a game with a golem. As Zeland uses the word golem. And so he's just talking about an imaginary creature that we have control over in a game. So, okay, golem, let's play. Whatever is happening, stay positive and pretend that you are pleased. There's a reason why we have the phrases, a blessing in disguise. Every cloud has a silver lining. And let me just ask you, if you're listening, I want you to look back on bad things that have happened to you, that you've had some time to step back from. Did you notice that it actually ended up being to your benefit? No matter how terrible it was in the moment. And what he is saying is, now understanding this, it's going to work out. Everything's going to be to your advantage. Try to look for the positive in any difficult or annoying situation. And we're talking about more than just positivity. We're talking about a pattern that can occur from our initial reaction being positive. Be glad, even if you fail to find anything positive to hang on to. Adopt the foolish habit of rejoicing in setbacks. We can do that. It is much more fun than getting irritated and whining at every little inconvenience. Coordinating the heart and mind is coordinating your response to this and your intention in handling it, as best I understand. You will see that in the majority of cases, your inconvenience will act in your favor. And even if that is not the case, you can be certain that your positive attitude has shielded you from other misfortune and carried you onto a favorable branch in your lifeline. As a rule, Annoyances are a deviation from the norm. If an annoyance occurs, it's not going to be the norm. Don't worry about it. They're only displeasing to you because they represent a strong deviation from balance and require additional energy. You are the one providing the source of energy when you create the obstacles, and then you spend even more energy in overcoming them. So by contrast, good fortune and feeling happy is the norm. Expect it to be the norm. We're usually only discontent when we come against a deviation in the script. Whenever the mind spots a deviation from a script it has accepted, it automatically perceives the change in a negative light and expresses the corresponding attitude towards it. The mind then strives to bring the situation back under control in its understanding. So now explain the rules of the game to your mind. Tell your mind that it will still be in control, but that the function of control now consists in perceiving all events as positive. So if you want to control your reality, your perception of negative events will give you control over that reality. Switch on your guardian at the very beginning of the performance. And when he refers to the guardian, as he does in 78 Days of Transurfing, he's talking about your literal guardian angel, the guardian that you can create. And so you can switch this on. Assume that you have somebody that's protecting you, that's taking care of you. Normally you have a rough idea of how events of the day should unfold. In the moment that you see the scenario changing, you must accept the change and agree to them. You only perceive an event to be negative because it does not fit into your scenario. Pretend that the event is just what was needed. This way you get a sliding and dynamic element of control over changes to the scenario. Do not rush to express your dissatisfaction or try to fight the situation. Just because ongoing changes are being introduced to the script. You have something crazy come up. Don't become dissatisfied. And I'm guilty of it. I'm sure you are too. Oh, this traffic jam. Oh, this flat tire. Separate yourself from the response of it in the moment. By giving up your control over the scenario, you have it returned to you. Only this time control is aimed at going with the alternative's flow rather than fighting against it. The secret, now, as Zeland says, coming back to coordination, the secret to coordination lies in letting go of your grip of control at the same time as taking the situation into your own hands. And let me read that sentence again. It sounds like a contradiction, and let's think about it. The secret to coordination lies in letting go of your grip of control at the same time taking the situation into your own hands. That seemingly sounds like we're contradicting ourselves, but basically what we're saying is that you gain control by assuming that it's okay. And I come back to an interview I had with Shlomo Friedman, where he was talking about an incident where he had a car accident. And in the moment, he let go and observed, and the universe tended to take over. And I also had a similar situation where I had a crazy experience where some people had a house invasion and tried to kill me. And in the moment, I detached myself. I didn't freak out. I let go. And in that moment, it seemed like the flow of the moment allowed everything to work out. Now, obviously, this is not every time. But if you've come faced with some significant event that has happened to you, you can gain control over it by letting go a little bit. That's the best way I could understand it. And as we learn this together, we'll understand what this means more and more. But again, he's using coordination, and he says that's the secret to coordination, is letting go of the grip of control at the same time taking it into your own hands. However, when you accept changes to the script as being normal, as par for the course, you let go of imposing your own sense of control. When you let go of the need to control, you actually become able to keep your own attitude and consequently the situation itself under control. So you can actually control the situation by not freaking out over weird things happening. At the end of the day, everyone wants to avoid problems and have everything turn out well in their lives. If you begin practicing the principle of coordination, this is exactly what will happen. That is the principle of coordination, is letting go of control to gain control. Zeland states the coordination principle is even more effective than trying to influence events with the power of outer intention. The mind is incapable of anticipating perfectly every move that is to come. And so I love this concept. The idea is that the perfect events are scripted into the universe. And by access, there's a script out there of a perfect way for you to handle whatever event. And our minds, by themselves, are not going to be able to know exactly what to do. But there is an exact thing to do. And by letting go and accessing that alternative space, then you can gain control. The layer of your own world intersects with the endless layers of other people's worlds who are constantly adding their own thing to the picture. And yet the mind does not have to work out in advance what moves lie ahead. All it has to do is run your target slide and follow the principle of coordination. So he mentions the target slide again. And so the idea is you still have a target or intention that you have, that you're aimed at. And that's fine. As long as you have that particular intention, you know it's going to be true. You let go of the control and move towards that. And that is the principle of coordination. Then, Zeland says the outer intention will successfully bring you to your goal. Coordination develops with practice. It is not enough to understand the coordination principle on an intellectual level only. You have to be constantly developing and perfecting the ability. Your guardian must be working constantly, too. You must not be oblivious to the moment that you're being drawn into a negative game. Be aware when you're being pulled into a negative game. Coordination is the most effective means of moving through the alternative space. You perceive every event as positive, and so always move onto a favorable branch of your lifeline and more frequently encounter the wave of fortune, which is ultimately what we're always trying to accomplish with applying these transurfing principles. The number one thing I want to accomplish is to find that wave of fortune. And the wave of fortune is very much like what we talked about earlier, which is the wave of bad luck that you have in the morning where you stub your toe and the refrigerator goes out. You have the flat tire. You can have a wave of good fortune. When you constantly make things positive, the next positive thing will happen. It becomes a wave. And maybe that's the metaphor of the word surfing inside of transurfing. You're surfing a wave. And so maybe transurfing is something seemingly complicated, but nothing more simple than choosing to perceive events as positive, and it pulls you into a forward positive and eventually into that wave of fortune, of positive things happening in the outer world. You must be careful not to end up with your head in the clouds. You're not meant to be floating in the air, but rather taking conscious, intentional action that enables you to balance as you ride the wave of fortune. So the wave of fortune begins. Somebody calls you up and you win a prize. And you get a new car, a new contract, a better job. Things work out for you. Great things start to happen. The first thing to remember, in the same way, is not to overreact to the positive of it. Because then the imbalance starts to occur. When you ride a wave, there is a balance that occurs. And maybe you haven't ridden a wave, but you can understand the concept of it. You get on that board and you start swimming and kicking your legs. And then you jump up and then you start to balance the board. And then the wave comes in and you ride the wave for as long as you can. But if you lose your balance a little bit, you're going to fall off into the water. Zeland literally says, the last sentence of this paragraph is that when the balance as you ride the wave of fortune, this is the essence of transurfing. So I can only tell you that I'm working this out with you. This has given me a better understanding of it. That we're riding a wave. That you're constantly having events coming up and down all the time, every single day. And it doesn't matter what's happening. You're broke. You lose your jobs. Something happens. Everything is working out in your favor. You have no idea what's happening in the future. You're following a script. And maybe you needed to lose that job to get the better job in the future. Maybe you get sick right now, but by going to the doctor because you're sick, you stop some other major sickness and you meet somebody that you fall in love with at the doctor's office. Who knows? But the positive things will start to happen. Find a balance. So if good things start happening, it's working out in your favor. Don't make it important, but follow along. Transform your joy into the intention of celebration, Zeland says. Use your right to choose and allow yourself the luxury of perceiving the life you are currently disenchanted with as a celebration. This will give you a real rather than illusory cause for celebration. For then, you have the hope of acquiring freedom. You will experience a quiet delight knowing that you are moving towards your goal, and this will keep the feeling of celebration close. Even balanced forces will not be able to darken your quiet delight. So you have something that comes up and then it rebalances in your life, but it's a celebration. In accordance with the principle of coordination, if you perceive life as a celebration, whatever is happening, it will become one. Now, there is no need to continue battling. You'll get what is yours in the end. By turning your back on the battle, you tear off the strings and acquire your true freedom without losing the prop they gave. The new prop is the alternatives flow. Remember that your choice will be fulfilled. Attune your thoughts to your target line, and then the flow will be directed towards your goal. Focus on your thoughts on what you want. If bad things come up, assume you're still on the path. Find your balance. Choose an advantage over everything you do. There is no force capable of preventing you on the path towards your goal if you go with the flow. And I know that sounds like a cliche. Hopefully you've listened to everything else that I've said when I'm talking about going with the flow. Stay balanced and observe the principle of coordination as we now understand it. You're no longer a small paper boat on the wave of circumstance and no puppet in the hands of pendulums. You have a sail, the unity of the heart and mind. You have a helm, your choice. You glide through the alternative space on the wind of outer intention. You surf on the wave of fortune. So the coordination of intention principle, and then again, in another section of the book, he puts in parentheses, the coordination of intention principle literally means everything is unfolding as it should. So that is what I'm going to treat it. My definition is the coordination of intention is everything is unfolding as it should with my heart and mind in unity. And by following the coordination of intention, it can serve as a useful reference point to lower the bar of importance and allow yourself not to know how events should develop. So let go. You don't need to worry about what's going to happen. And if something happens that you were not expecting or that you didn't want, assume that it's in your best interest and that it's a good thing, that it's to your advantage, and celebrate it. Let go the grip of control over the situation and give the situation the opportunity to successfully resolve itself successfully. I think all the time you have friends in your life and they may be in a bad relationship with somebody they think that they love, and then then the relationship falls apart and they're depressed, and you wish you could just tell them, hey, you're going to find somebody else and they're going to be even better for you. But they don't know, and then a year later they find out somebody else. But in that moment, if they simply had known, it would have been a lot better for them. Circumstances will begin to unfold in a positive way if you consciously go with the flow rather than beating your hands on the water. You can rest assured that the coordination of intention principle works. The world has no intention of causing anyone difficulties, and not because forces exist which take care of you specifically, but because it involves expending less energy. And so, again, he goes into this metaphor and an understanding. He's always using nature as an example. And when he talks about balance, he is looking at nature. Everything always goes into balance. Check out my episode on balancing forces and importance. It's what nature does. Nature does not waste energy, and it is not profitable for nature to spend energy on you. The difficulties we experience are always related to an excessive expenditure of energy. So while you're moving along this wave, if you start wobbling too much, you're going to fall off. By contrast, prosperity is the norm and demands a minimum expenditure of energy. For you to be prosperous, it does not require major energy. It's the norm. The mind has no understanding of the path of least resistance in battles with the alternative flow, because the mind thinks, well, we've always had these battles and we've always got to battle. We got to wobble on that surfboard. It doesn't understand. The mind doesn't understand. The heart mind. But the mind doesn't understand. It doesn't understand the path of least resistance and battles the alternatives flow, thereby bringing obstacles and problems upon itself. Have you ever met somebody that has great things going on in their life and they say, too good to be true, something bad's about to happen, and guess what? It does. I have met people where things are going great and they'll come to me and so everything's going great, something bad's about to happen. It's time for you to stop that thinking. It's time for you to expect good things to happen. And it's going to get better and better and better. Where else will these obstacles and problems come from? But from your mind. No one has eradicated the law of the conservation of energy. And so Zeland says the coordination principle should not be taken literally or categorically. You cannot walk right into the thick of things and at the same time assure yourself that everything is unfolding as it should. So I would take this as a warning. Don't overthink this. Don't walk into a big riot and think that you can say, oh, everything's working out for my favor. He's telling you to be logical about this. But generally speaking, you can rely on this principle. So there is a warning that he gives with the coordination principle, and it should not be taken literally or categorically in every case, but in most cases and on an ongoing basis, it will allow you to move into a positive lifeline. He goes on to say, and as an example, my problem is this: I have set myself very high goals, but I'm constantly surrounded by pendulums that get in the way of achieving them. I cannot talk about my goals or discuss my interests with anyone else, and even my relatives tell me I will not make it. When I observe other people, they all pretty much look the same to me. And so he's had people say, give him some advice. And he points out that pendulums get in your way. They get in everyone's way. So the way of keeping their counter impact to a minimum is to keep the bar of importance to a minimum. Do not attribute anything excessive meaning. And this might seem an unusual recommendation, but the majority of problems, according to Zeland, are due to high inner and outer importance. Very high goals are not difficult to achieve. It is the accepted stereotype and the mind's false thought patterns that make them difficult to achieve. So the coordination of intention principle can help you in breaking these stereotypes and thought patterns. You can achieve any goal if it is truly your goal on your path. Now, if the goal has been set by someone else on someone else's lifeline, then you're not following the alternative's flow. You can expect a feeling of inner discomfort when you run the mental image of the goal as it would look like it's already been achieved. Much like Abraham says, follow your feelings. And if you get that feeling of discomfort, it's a warning sign. Completely syncs with Abraham. In fact, I've never seen any of Zeland's teachings that don't go along with Abraham. As far as the choice of your goal and how to achieve it is concerned, here you can take into account what other people say to you, but their words should be given no more meaning than that. You should take instructions from the dictates of the heart and not the advice of others, particularly relatives who wish only the best for you. So I would say, in conclusion, there may be some confusion with the word coordination, as I understand it in English, and there may be some various different interpretations of it. But my best understanding is the coordination of intention principle is an alignment of the heart and mind, and choosing, when you have events come up, your reaction to them is incredibly important, and choosing to see the benefit in them will allow you to overcome those events and pull you onto a positive lifeline. Something terrible can happen to you, and I promise you, it's bad things happen to all of us. It's just life. But they can also happen in 3s and 4s, in waves, and you end up surfing a wave or lifeline because of your reaction to the initial bad thing that happened. That's the best thing that I pull from this teaching. So, it's simple and it's complicated. Yes, we need to be positive, but we're not just talking about being positive. We're talking about our reaction. And one of the greatest things I've learned in my own personal spiritual journey, and as I've learned that has been reinforced in reading Reality Transurfing, is the importance of our reaction. And I'm still working on it. I had to rehook up a new modem today, and it was kind of complicated, and it took me like several hours to get all the devices in the house all synced up, and I had pushed a button on it and I wasn't aware of it, and it wasn't working, and I just started getting furious. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go back and reset all of these items, and it's not working. And I remember thinking in that moment, your reaction right now is critical. And then my son came in and said, "Oh, Dad, the Wi-Fi's out. What are we going to do?" And I was like, this is going to be a tough situation. And then I stopped and I said, whatever is happening is to my benefit. And it was to my benefit because it was a teaching. I learned in that benefit because I pushed a button that was kind of hidden and everything started working again. Whatever happens to you, get into a car accident and you suddenly, I'm so worried, I'm going to have to pay the insurance now, and I'm going to have to go and talk and everything's going to be so time consuming. If you have a car accident in that moment, and then it'll pull you onto a negative lifeline. Take a deep breath, assume that everything's going to be okay, and then maybe there's an advantage to it. Maybe it means that you're going to get a better car, or you meet somebody along the way. Who knows? Assume there's an advantage and a benefit that is favorable to you when you have crazy things happen, especially at the beginning of the wave, before it's too late. And so I challenge you, the next time you have something happen in the morning, then you can change the wave. And I tell you why. I always ask in my interviews, what's your morning routine? And that's because you're creating that wave. In the morning, you have that chance. When you initially wake up, you can create your own wave of fortune by using this coordination principle. Look for the advantage, and you can literally start kicking on that surfboard, and you'll be propelled on the wave of fortune with exactly the speed that you need to go. If you start in the morning strong in the way that you are reacting to around you and creating and visualizing, when you jump on that surfboard, you will be at the speed that you need and have the balance that you need to ride a literal wave of fortune. And then it will be on days and days of fortune, and incredible things can happen for you. I really hope this teaching touched you like it did me and helped me to understand. And it just reinforces again how great this book is and how there's really great stuff in this book. And I hope it helped you. So I hope that you're coordinating your intention, that your heart and your mind are aligned, and that you react to negative things with that little thought. How am I going to react to this? What is the advantage? It is an advantage to me. This is going to be favorable to me no matter what's happening. So if you're out there and you're struggling and you've had some bad things happen recently, just know right now, hear me when I tell you, it's going to be to your advantage. Everything is favorable for you. And I promise it's going to be okay. And watch the lifeline open up for you in the alternative flow. And release your grip on it. You're going to have bad things come up that really make incredible things happen. You're going to have bad things that put you in new lifelines that have circumstances happen beyond anything that you could have imagined. And so be excited for it. If you have something bad happen, be excited. Oh my gosh, this means something great is about to happen. Celebrate it. That's all it is. It's a simple lesson. And I hope that it touched you. Everything's going to be okay. I promise. Everything's to your advantage. Everything's working out for you. Thank you so much for joining me. It's such an honor when you join me on these lessons. I hope that it synced in with you. If you need coaching, you can email me at media@advancedsuccessinstitute.com. All episodes of The Reality Revolution can be found at therealityrevolution.com. We have full transcripts of all episodes. If you don't have time to watch all these videos, you can always put them on 2 or 3 times speed if you want to. I got some great meditations on there. Let me know. Give me your feedback. Join my group on Facebook where we go deeper on this stuff, and feel free to post if you're already on there. I want to talk about this stuff, and I want to join you in exploring this stuff. I'm no expert. I'm researching this, and I'm taking my research to you, hoping to understand this stuff, and I want to understand it with you. So if you have questions and I don't know the answer, maybe someone else will. So get on the group and let me know what you think. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, because I have so much cool stuff that's about to happen. My book has been completed and will be coming soon. The Reality Revolution, the mind-blowing movement to hack your reality. Can't wait for you to read it. If you have any other questions, let me know. And welcome to the Reality Revolution.